Hey everyone, this is Fabriello and welcome back. Today it's time for the pickups of April and I've managed to gather a lot of stuff and there's much to tell about basically everything. So let's just start it because, as I said, there is quite a lot. So like always, let's start from the movies. And this one. The thing with this is, let's say, so I can explain. X-Men Days of Future Past, and I bought this just now, even though it's been a while since it was released. Like it was published on DVD and Blu-ray. But the thing is, with superhero movies, I don't want to spend too much money on these things, and because I like them, but I'm so sick of them at the same time because there's so many superhero movies. We're bombarded by this stuff, and I like them. As I said, I really do. I can wait for Avengers now that Age of Ultron will be released in a couple of days here in the United Kingdom, and maybe in the entire world, I don't know. But the thing is, I saw Days of Future Past in cinemas when it was released, and it's really good. I mean, it's a sequel of First Class, as we know, and both these movies are great, especially compared with Last Stand, also called the third one. It was really bad. I really didn't like it very much. It has interesting things, but overall it was a mediocre movie. And First Class, Days of Future Past, and I'm really interested in what they're going to do with the third X-Men movie, because, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but it's been a while since this movie is out, so I believe that in the third movie they are going to introduce Apocalypse, and I'm super interested in that because the Age of Apocalypse, it's my favorite X-Men series. It's really good, although I think it's going to be different, because even though it would be so cool to see the alternative universe of the Age of Apocalypse, like for example Magneto is the leader of the X-Men, he is married with Rogue, and that would be cool because I'm still waiting to see a decent version of Rogue in the movies since she's my favorite X-Men. And in the movies, she's not good. I really don't like the way they're doing, because I want Super Rogue. That's what I want. She is my. I grew up watching the X-Men show on TV as a kid. That's my Rogue, not the one. It's understandable what they were doing, like struggling with their power, blah blah blah. But Days of Future Past, it's really good. But again, I spent like £4 on this, so because it's been out in a while, it's really good. And again, I don't want to spend too much money on this, even though I like it. For example, for whatever reason, my brother was interested in watching Thor, and he really liked it, even though he's not into superheroes or anything. I'm talking about like video games, science fiction. He hates these things. But for whatever reason, he wanted to see Thor, he liked it, and he's curious about Thor 2. But I don't want to buy that because it's a mediocre movie. I didn't like it very much. So we will probably rent it on iTunes. But again, this is really good. Give it a watch. Probably all of you already did. Really, really cool. Like I said, finally I have it because I wanted to rewatch it, but I was waiting for the price. Next, I've always, again, wanted to see this movie, and for whatever reason, I always forgot. Every time I go to my usual movie store, I'm starting to look for. I look for it, but then I start wandering and buy something else. And today, recently, actually, like a couple of days ago, I actually went there because watching a video on YouTube reminded me. Oh yeah, I want to look for this movie, and this is Moon. Always wanted to watch it, because I didn't manage to do it back then, but I read about it, so like not really reviews because I try to avoid spoilers on everything, but people talking about it, friends who say, you haven't watched Moon? Like, go get it now. So as you can see, I spent only less than £5, forgot even to open it, but can't wait to watch this. It's supposed to be really good, like a sort of serious science fiction, like more believable, rather than, I don't know, Star Wars, Star Trek, this kind of awesome stuff. I'm really glad for Moon. And speaking of science fiction, I've always been very curious about this series, and I've decided to buy it bought the first season because I'm so curious about this universe and its development and everything. That it's Babylon 5. And I'm watching this show in these days. I mean, I am at the third or fourth disc out of 6. I'm loving this. I mean, it's so good. I always just heard about it, never managed to watch it actually. And since recently I've been getting into Star Trek, I decided let's watch some other science fiction series. Since I'm trying to see, just waiting for a good moment for buying Deep Space Nine. That's the series I really want to watch among the Star Trek ones. But in the meanwhile, I'm really loving it. Babylon 5. Can't wait to watch all of it, because I also know about the peculiarity of this series. Like, the creators knew exactly the entire story and how much in terms of time it's going to take. Like, this is it. In 5 seasons, this is going to be over because we know the story. I mean, I love this because with TV series, and especially when they get popular, it's so easy to squeeze everything out of them until the series itself is ruined. It happens a lot. It's very common. And I'm glad that sometimes there are series like this who says, this is the story. We don't care about fillers or whatever. We're going to tell this story in this number of seasons in this time, and that's it. I know there's also movies and everything about it to expand the universe, but for now I'm just curious about the series, and it's fantastic so far. I'm really loving it. Yeah, Lando, it's probably one of my favorite characters so far. The glorious Centauri Republic. He is hilarious. I love him. And I didn't mention it. I bought a soundtrack actually, and it doesn't happen that often, but this is a special case, and it's movie related. Blade Runner. This soundtrack is simply fantastic. I didn't remember it because recently I rewatched Blade Runner like 3 times, twice on DVD, and recently here in London, or in the United Kingdom, I don't know, but at least in London, they re-showing Blade Runner in cinemas, and that was very exciting. I was super excited about it. So I basically took my brother and said, you're coming with me. We're watching Blade Runner together. And it was curious because Blade Runner is such a monumental movie that even if you don't like science fiction or whatever, you kind of know it. Even my mom watched Blade Runner back then. And my brother watched it and he said, well, this is actually really good. I didn't remember it well, but watch it in cinema. Because I was too young to watch it when it was released, of course. But in cinemas, my God, it's good. I mean, every time I rewatch the movie, I like it more. I mean, it's becoming one of my favorite movies, among my favorite movies of all time now, because it's just gorgeous to look at it. It's such iconic, and the music by Vangelis, it's so good. I mean, I didn't remember it. And in cinemas, of course, with super sound and everything, it was just mind-blowing to watch it. And so good. So the music, it's amazing. I highly recommend it. If you never listened to this soundtrack, bought it now, because we bought it for like £3. It was really cheap, and it's amazing. And I remember it was so funny with my brother. We went to the cinema. We were ready to enjoy the movie, and just at the beginning, when there's like the title screen and everything, and with all the flames coming from the city, with that amazing music, there was someone like behind us was keep coughing, and another one like on the right of my brother was sitting beside me, was drinking his Coke or whatever very noisily. It was like like this. It was like, oh come on, this is so irritating. Listen to this music. They ruined the moment. But then we watched the movie, alright, and it's simply fantastic. I mean, I remember that once talking with a friend, I said like, yeah, Blade Runner is good, but I'm not too much into it, blah blah blah. I rewatched it once and said, this is actually really good. I rewatched it again recently and said, this is actually really, really good. I love this movie. Rewatched it at cinema. It's one of my favorite movies of all time now because it's just so good from all points of view. I really love it. And finally, Another really cool item that I found for a good price on Amazon this time, it's the Justice League Season 1 of the animated show. There are 2 seasons of this, and it continues in the 2 Justice League Unlimited series. This is my favorite superhero animated show, actually. I remember I watched it on television, an episode here and there, not very regularly. I've downloaded some episodes, but I never watched the entire series, like all the episodes one after the other. And I love it. It's so good. It's just as good as I remember it, and to me, it's even better than Batman or X-Men, even though they're excellent shows. But I love the Justice League. There's nothing I can do. I really like the Justice League, and thinking that DC is trying to make the live-action movies, but they're so far behind. I think the Batman Superman movie, it's coming. We'll see how it's going. I'm not super excited about Ben Affleck as Batman, but maybe it will be good. Who knows? We remember, like, when he played a superhero as Daredevil, so I don't know. But it's the first step towards the Justice League, so I am very excited because this, I already watched all of this. I mean, it was just too good. I think in one day I saw 2 discs or something like that, because it was like, this is awesome. It's my childhood's coming back, or at least I was younger when I watched it, and it's really good. And rewatching this, as I said, really got me into a DC kick. I mean, I really like this stuff. Why not buying some DC-related items? And because growing up, I got into comics in general because of DC. Then I moved into mangas for a long time, mainly like final year of middle school and the whole high school and the beginning of university. I was into mangas. Then I'm starting to lose an interest in the last couple of years into mangas, and I'm moving back to comics, like Western comics, but they're always being with me, even though as a kid I prefer mangas, and I've always been a DC fan. This is what I want to say. I am a DC fan. Growing up, I like Marvel. I'm not saying that they're bad, of course. I always say that I'm a really open-minded person, and that's true. I mean, I love Marvel even though I prefer DC. It's just a matter of preference. That's normal. Just like with video games, I grew up as a Nintendo fan, but I love Sega, I love Sony, I like Microsoft. It doesn't matter. I mean, I love this stuff in general. But we all have preferences, and DC in terms of comics, it's always been my stuff. Even though reading as a kid, I remember reading some Spider-Man because I really liked Venom. I remember I loved the Thunderbolts, especially in the mid-90s. I loved the stuff, but it always been to me about the Justice League. Superman, not so much, but I loved Batman as a kid. I really liked the Green Lantern. I loved the Teen Titans really much. I loved the Justice Society. So I love DC. And watching the animated show, I decided to buy some DC stuff, and I started with Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, an animated movie. I read the comic book about this years ago, but I really wanted to watch the movie because I saw something like not really a trailer, but some footage here and there on Amazon, on YouTube, and I said, well, I like the art. I remember that I like this story, like Superman and Batman going rogue and kind of fighting all the other heroes, but there's some mysterious motive behind. Really cool stuff. I really want to watch this instead of just reading it. So I'm really glad finding this. I wasn't expecting this yesterday and watching it because my brother isn't here, so I can watch my stuff. But I just received it today. No big deal. And for the first time in a long time, actually, I bought some comic books. And let's start with Justice Society All-Stars Glory Days. This is like volume 2 out of 3. And even though I read on the internet, this is not a really good series. And years ago, I bought the first one of these called Constellations. And I liked it. So I thought, who cares about that? I want to continue the story. I already read this because it's not reading Lord of the Rings, and it's actually pretty good. I really liked it. The thing is, I love the Justice Society. That's why I bought this. because sometimes I prefer the Justice Society even to the Justice League, because I like the idea of their focusing on other heroes rather than always being about Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. For example, I prefer Power Girl to Wonder Woman. She's awesome. And I always love also the idea of all the heroes, like veterans, together with younger heroes. For example, like the first Flash, Jay Garrick, or the first Green Lantern, Alan Scott, and newer heroes like, for example, Stargirls or others. That's really cool. A sort of mixture between rookies and veterans. But I'm afraid that with the new direction of the DC universe after New 52, I think they canceled the Justice Society. Like, they changed stuff and it doesn't exist anymore. That's a damn shame, I think. Justice Society is awesome. And finally, the other comic book that I bought today, so I still have to read it. It's Captain Marvel. I know it says Shazam, but it is Captain Marvel. I don't care about all the legal stuff behind it. It's really stupid that they changed its name because Shazam is the name of the wizard, not his name. He is Captain Marvel. This is the first comic that I bought after 52, and really curious to read it, because this is about the origins. I don't know if they changed something of Captain Marvel and how Billy Batson encounters the wizard Shazam and gets its powers and became the world Midas Mortal. I always like it very much, Captain Marvel. It's a hero from simpler times to me, and it's really cool. I prefer Captain Marvel to Superman, for example, but I know I think he is one of the most underrated superheroes of DC, because it's too similar to Superman, because it's not a DC character originally. We know it's from Fawcett Comics, and so it's always between Superman, Captain Marvel, blah blah blah. But really happy to actually have bought some comic books. It's been a while since I did it, and why not? Let's just move the stuff out of the way so we can move to video games, because I actually bought games for all my systems. So I got a game for the PSP, for the Vita, and strangely enough, I haven't bought one in a while, for the DS. And we'll keep that for later. Let's start with the Vita. And I already made a video discussion about this game because I finished it quicker than I expected. The Walking Dead Season 1, the Telltale game, as I said, made an entire video about this, already finished it. Fantastic game. Highly recommend it, because I think this is the best way to play this Telltale game, on the Vita and on the go especially. Like, I was in Berlin a couple of days ago, and I brought my Vita with me and played this all night. I finished it I almost finished it in Berlin. I finished a couple of days ago in London, and it's fantastic. Watch my video if you want to know my full opinions on it. Great game. And next, I always wanted to get into this series, but since I didn't own the PS2 at the time, I couldn't play it. And I always wanted to play Jak and Daxter, because I like platformers and like platform action games in the case of Jak and Daxter. And since now in a while I own a Vita, I couldn't resist and buying the Jak and Daxter trilogy. I don't know if this is supposed to be in HD or whatever. I don't care, it's just curiosity, because I can play all the free Jak and Daxter games. Really curious about it, because I actually kind of know how Jak and Daxter game goes, because slightly before buying this, I actually bought The Lost Frontier for the PSP, which is, I think, a sequel to the original trilogy. The only problem is that, so I kind of see how the controls go and how you play it. So it looks like a lot of fun. I play for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes maximum, because at that point my PSP was not working well anymore. Like it has a little crack on the joystick, and like having Jak going all over the place while I'm not doing nothing. I mean, that thing drove me crazy while I was finishing Jeanne d'Arc. That playing a platformer, like for example jumping from a platform to another with the controllers going all over the place, was impossible. So I'm waiting for a new PSP, and so yeah, I'm waiting for playing Jak and Daxter, but I can play the trilogy first, so I can play in the right order. Really, really excited for the 4 Jak and Daxter games. And finally, the last item. I'm very curious about this and super excited to finally getting into this series. I haven't bought a game for the DS in a while, and I cannot play it now because I'm still playing Final Fantasy V. I haven't played in a couple of days since I was playing my Vita mainly, and so I have to finish Final Fantasy V before getting into this. But this is the next game I'm going to put into my DS. And the problem is that I mentioned it, that I cannot turn my DS off, because if I do that, my Final Fantasy card is probably, for sure, defective, and it will erase my save file. Now I'm almost at the end. I don't want to start the game all over again. And the game that I will play later on my DS, Etrian Odyssey, the first one. Now, I am a big fan of Chance Doomwaves, and I know he is a big fan of the Etrian Odyssey game, and I also know that he suggested, in general, to start with Untold, the Millennium Girl, on the 3DS. I don't own a 3DS, so I decided to start from the beginning. There are 3 Etrian Odyssey games on the DS. I'm not sure about 4. Is that on the 3DS? I don't remember. I know Untold is, and they're Untold 2, it's coming. And I always wanted to get into Etrian Odyssey, or at least to try one of the games to see what it's all about. I know it's a first-person dungeon crawler, so it's a really old-school game. I don't mind, I love old-school games. And should be really interesting. Let's see, if I like it, I will probably play more of the games. But the fact is, I remember I could have bought this when it was released at the time on the DS. But I remember that I went to the store, and it has, there was Etrian Odyssey, and on the side there was the Metroid Prime collection for the Wii. And I say, Metroid. So I missed Etrian Odyssey for a while then, and I always forgot to buy it. And these Atlus games, sometimes they are really pricey. This is the first time that I found it for a reasonable price. It was still kind of pricey for a DS game, but we know that these Nintendo games, well, not maybe third party, I'm not sure, but they're never too cheap. And as you can notice, I bought the North American version simply because, contrary to the European ones that are slightly larger, I love the fact that on the spine you have actually some drawings. There is a better version of the title. I love this. So that's it. These are my pickups for April. So you can see a lot of stuff. Maybe I talked a bit too much on comic books, but I love this. I also like that. A lot of games. So I already finished Walking Dead. I'm trying now something different on the Vita. We'll see when I'll play Jak and Daxter. But yes, a lot of stuff. Hope you guys like it, and thanks so much for watching. Like always, take care.